Welcome to another episode Out in the Horrorbox. I'm your autumn host, Dom, and in this week's episode, we're going to be looking at the animated dark fantasy television miniseries created by Patrick McHale for Cartoon Network, Over the Garden Wall. Somewhere, lost in the clouded annals of history, lies a place that few have seen, a mysterious place called the Unknown. Two brothers, Wirt and Greg, find themselves lost in the strange woods, adrift in time. With the help of a shadowy woodsman and a foul-tempered bluebird named Beatrice, they travel to the foggy land in hope of finding a way home. Most kids are curious about the topic of horror, being scared, with the safety of no real danger. This morbid curiosity is why kids and teens are attracted to all things horror. This episode is about horror for kids. Since humans have been telling stories, passing on lessons through parables and fables, there have always been a fascination with the things in the dark, the macabre, and the unknown. This comes from a place of trying to explain the world around us, and, traditionally, scary stories have been the best way of doing this. Oral history, passing down these stories from generation to generation, was the norm for thousands of years. Then we learned how to write. Keeping record of these lessons have helped us to understand our world and develop new ideas. Exposing children to scary stories, I believe, helps them to grow in their skills of assessing danger, knowledge of their surroundings, and storytelling as a whole. We see this in the medium of books, television, and motion pictures. So let's get lost into the unknown. Created by Patrick McHale for Cartoon Network, Over the Garden Wall follows the journey of two lost half-brothers, the anxious and poetic Wirt and his endlessly optimistic younger brother, Greg, as they navigate a mysterious, dreamlike forest called the Unknown, in a desperate attempt to find their way home. Along their path they encounter a surreal tapestry of strange characters and eerie situations, blending folkloric charm with underlying horror. The show was directly adapted from McHale's earlier animated short, Tome of the Unknown, which was produced as part of Cartoon Network Studios' program to develop new creative talent. The voice cast is led by Elijah Wood and Colin Dean as the brothers, with Melanie Linsky as Beatrice, a cynical bluebird who aids them. The ensemble features an impressive roster of talent, including Christopher Lloyd, Tim Curry, Baby Newworth, Chris Isaac, Shirley Jones, and John Cleese, among others. The series is renowned for its unique musical atmosphere, provided by the folk band The Blasting Company. Over the Garden Wall premiered as a daily event, with its 10 episodes airing from November 3rd to November 7th, 2014. The series holds the distinction of being Cartoon Network's first original miniseries, a format that allowed for a single cohesive narrative. McHale first conceived the core idea in 2004 and initially pitched it to the network in 2006. After honing his skills as a writer and creative director on other Cartoon Network shows, like The Marvelous Misadventure of Flapjack and Adventure Time, the network invited him to develop a pilot. This pilot, Tome of the Unknown, successfully captured the intended tone and aesthetic, serving as a direct catalyst for a full miniseries. Production officially began in March 2014, while the creative leadership was based at Cartoon Network Studios in Burbank, California. Many artists worked remotely from various cities across the U.S. The actual animation was outsourced to the South Korean studio Digital Emation. The show's distinct visual style is a key part of its appeal, drawing heavily on 19th and 20th century Americana and classic animation, with its digital backgrounds meticulously crafted to resemble Brunel, I'm mispronouncing it, I bet, a painting style using shades of brown and gray, which enhances its timeless storybook quality. Upon its release, Over the Garden Wall was met with widespread critical acclaim, with reviewers particularly praising its haunting atmosphere, emotional depth, and well-developed characters. Its excellence was formally recognized in 2014 when it won the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Animated Program. The show's popularity spawned a significant expanded universe in print. Following a one-shot comic book adaptation written by Mikhail, the story was continued in an ongoing comic series that ran for 20 issues, later evolving into a series of graphic novels and miniseries that further explored the world of the unknown. For its 10th anniversary in 2024, the celebration culminated in a special 3-minute stop-motion short film produced by the acclaimed Aardman Animations, which reunited key cast and crew members, including Mikhail, Wood, and Linsky, offering fans a poignant and beautifully crafted return to the series' unique world. Tome of the Unknown is an animated short film written and directed by Patrick McHale, who also personally handled the storyboarding, establishing the project's distinct visual language and narrative pacing. Shortly after graduating from college, McHale pitched the idea for this short, along with several other concepts to Cartoon Network executives. At the time, the network was exploring the possibility of launching a feature film division, a plan that ultimately never materialized. Intrigued by McHale's pitch, the network asked if he could expand the premise of Tome of the Unknown into a full-length feature film. McHale attempted this, but found the concept was not suited to a single feature-length narrative. He felt the story needed an episodic structure to properly unfold, and subsequently drafted an ambitious plan for a full television series, spanning 3 seasons. However, this grand vision was temporarily shelved when McHale was offered the prestigious role of creative director on Pendleton Ward's burgeoning hit, Adventure Time, another flagship production for Cartoon Network. Deep within a sprawling, enigmatic woodland known only as the Unknown, 2 half-brothers, the cautious and fretful Wirt and his irrepressibly cheerful younger brother, Gregory, journey along with a talking bluebird named Beatrice, who was voiced in the pilot by Natasha Leggero. The trio is bound for a distant metropolis, driven by their quest for a legendary artifact, the Tome of the Unknown, a fabled book said to contain every story, memory, and object that has ever been lost to the world. As their weary legs begin to fail, Greg whimsically suggests they find a goose to ride, a notion that pragmatic Wirt immediately dismisses as impossible. Wandering off, Greg stumbles upon a bizarre marvel, a fully functional automobile crafted entirely from vegetables. Its owner, a melancholic humanoid figure named John Crops, is himself made of living produce. Crops laments his profound loneliness, sharing the group's desire to reach the city in the hopes of finding a companion. Seeing a solution, Wirt strikes a bargain. In exchange for the vegetable car, he will drive the forlorn John Crops to the city to find a soulmate. Let's go over the original short film and explore it. As Wirt and Greg become tired from walking, Greg suggests they ride a goose, but Wirt doubts that they could find one big enough to carry them. Greg wanders off and discovers a car made from vegetables, which fascinates and confuses Wirt. The car's owner, John Crops, is likewise a vegetable humanoid. Crops wallows over his loneliness, wishing like the others to go to the city. Wirt offers in exchange for Crops letting them keep the car to drive Crops to the city, where he can hopefully find a soulmate. Their journey is violently interrupted when a murder of monstrously large crows descends upon them, pecking furiously at the vegetable vehicle. In panic, Wirt swerves off the path and crashes into a cornfield, impaling the car into a tall scarecrow pole. The The Scarecrow's sudden appearance successfully frightens the crows away. To the traveler's dismay, Crops reveals that this rustic collection of farmhouses is, in fact, the big city he spoke of, a quaint and isolated agrarian community hidden within the sea of corn. While Wirt and Beatrice struggle to repair the damaged vegetable car, Greg and Crops venture into the town's gazebo, where a garden party is underway. There, Crops has a fateful encounter with a graceful woman composed of cabbage. When the scheduled entertainment is canceled, the ever-resourceful Greg volunteers Crops to perform. The cabbage woman is charmed to discover Crops as a musician, and a tentative romance begins to blossom between the two vegetable people. Meanwhile, Wirt's attempt at auto repair proved futile until Beatrice, with her bird's eye view and sharp wit, guides his hands. Just as they get the engine sputtering back to life and attempt to drive off, they accidentally knock over the very scarecrow that had saved them. This act summons not only the return of the giant crows, but also a flock of ravenous giant turkeys who descend upon the vegetable town and its terrified inhabitants. Wirt and Beatrice hastily retrieve Greg, while the enamored Crops remains blissfully unaware of the avian onslaught, serenading his new love. As Wirt, Greg, and Beatrice attempt a desperate escape, abandoning Crops' corpse ship, the giant animals, now joined by a colossal alligator, begin to devour the vegetable car itself. While Wirt frantically tries to fight them off, Greg hops out and disappears into the tall corn. There, he miraculously discovers the very thing he had wished for, a goose of immense size, perfectly capable of carrying them all. Wirt and Beatrice, guided by the sound of Greg's ecstatic and loud screaming, soon find him. His piercing cries have the unexpected benefit of terrifying the giant birds, scattering them into the sky. With the chaos ended, Crops and his cabbage woman depart together, having found their happiness. Mounting their new feathered steed, Wirt, Gregory, Beatrice, and the goose continue their journey, flying onward and deeper into the mysterious, shadow-dappled heart of the unknown. Several years later, around 2011, the network again approached McHale, this time inviting him to pitch an idea for their shorts development program, which was designed to incubate new talent and potential series. Although McHale had created student films and had significant experience working on other people's animated projects, he had never before developed a professional piece under his own name. Consequently, he had low expectations, assuming the network's interests would not extend beyond the production of the short itself. To his surprise, the finished pilot was met with an overwhelmingly positive reception from the executives, who were so impressed by its unique tone, aesthetic, and storytelling, they greenlit it for production as a full miniseries, marking a significant turning point in McHale's career. The project, initially conceived as an 18-episode miniseries, was forced to condense the story down due to production and scheduling constraints, ultimately being cut down to a tighter 10-episode arc. While the series retained the main characters from the pilot, with Elijah Wood and Colin Dean reprising their roles as the brothers Wirt and Greg, the central plot was significantly reworked. The original premise of the quest for a magical Tome of the Unknown was abandoned in favor of a simpler, more flexible, and emotionally resonant goal. Two boys are simply lost in a strange wood and must find their way home. This change allowed for more organic and episodic adventures. To reflect this new direction, the series was retitled Over the Garden Wall. The project was officially announced in May 2014 and premiered just 6 months later, in November of that same year. Key artistic talent from the pilot was carried over to the series, with Nick Cross, who had worked as the background painter alongside layout designer Chris I'm going to butcher this, Sirgotis on Tome of the Unknown, being promoted to the crucial role of art director for the miniseries, ensuring a constant and evocative visual style. Now let's go over the characters in Over the Garden Wall and the actors who portray them. First up, we have Wirt, who's voiced by Elijah Wood. He is the elder half-brother of Greg, a teenager who navigates the bewildering perils of the unknown with a determined yet deeply anxious perspective. His distinctive attire consists of a red pointed hat fashioned from a repurposed Santa hat, a dramatic navy blue nurse's cape fastened with yellow buttons, gray pants, and a white shirt and thin suspenders, all completed by a pair of deliberately mismatched shoes, one black and one brown. This eccentric ensemble is, in fact, a Halloween costume of his own creation, though even Wirt himself cannot definitively explain what character he's attempting to portray, a detail that perfectly encapsulates his own sense of confused identity. As a character, he is a classic pessimist, easily frightened by the four strange inhabitants and frequently exacerbated by his brother's younger, boundless optimism. Yet his underlying loyalty and deep-seated care for Greg are never in doubt. His personality is further colored by his unrequited crush on a girl named Sarah, for whom he writes and soberly recites his own melancholic poetry, and he is also a capable, if perhaps reluctant, clarinet player. Gregory, voiced by Colin Dean, is Wirt's younger half-brother, a small, plump ball of inexhaustible energy and imagination, who serves as the unwavering, optimistic antithesis to his brother's fretful nature. His practical outfit consists of a pair of faded green overalls, matching black shoes, and a brown satchel worn over a simple white shirt adorned with a ribbon. In stark contrast to Wirt, Greg faces the supernatural dangers of the unknown with a blissful and often humorous lack of concern, a trait that proves to be his greatest strength. For instance, he gleefully follows the cryptic instructions of the sinister beast, unknowingly subverting the creature's intention to exhaust his spirit through relentless labor. As part of his own Halloween costume, he wears a tea kettle securely on his head, which he insists perfectly transforms him into an elephant, demonstrating his unique and charmingly illogical view of the world. Beatrice, voiced by Melanie Linsky, is a sharp-witted talking bluebird who begrudgingly joins Wirt and Greg on their journey after they free her from a thorny rosebush. Her avian form is actually a curse placed upon her and her entire family as punishment for a past misdeed. As a human girl, she threw a rock at a bluebird. In a desperate bid for redemption, she made a Faustian bargain with a mysterious and powerful woman known as Adelaide. The terms were simple. If Beatrice could procure a child to serve as Adelaide's permanent servant, she would be rewarded with a pair of magical scissors capable of cutting away her family's curse by trimming her bluebird wings. This mission initially defines her interactions with the brothers, creating a compelling tension between her growing fondness for them and her desperate desire to regain her humanity. So those were the main characters of the story. Now let's get into some of the recurring characters. The Woodsman, voiced by Christopher Lloyd, is a tragic, brooding figure who was once a municipal judge before retreating from society to a solitary house in the country with his wife and daughter. His appearance is iconic and somber, defined by a stovepipe hat, dark, heavy clothing, and worn black boots, often seen bearing the tools of his grim duty. The beast's ominous dark lantern, a worn axe, or a large bundle of wood strapped to his back. His life was shattered when his wife was fatally wounded by an unidentified creature in the woods. In his subsequent grief, the cunning beast preyed upon him, tricking him into believing that he had captured the soul of the woodman's own daughter within the lantern, promising her spirit would survive only as long as its eerie flame remained lit. This cruel deception has forced the tormented woodsman into a perpetual soul-crushing cycle of chopping down edelwood trees formed from the souls of lost travelers, to fuel the lantern, all to protect the daughter who may not even be there. Jason Funderburger, voiced by singer Jack Jones, is the ever-present frog companion discovered by Greg, who just before the brothers crossed into the unknown. A source of constant comic relief and childish affection, Greg has bestowed upon the frog a rapidly changing series of names, including Kitty, Wirt, George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Dr. Cucumber, and Greg Jr., before finally settling on the magnificently mundane Jason Funderburger. The frog faithfully accompanies Wirt and Greg on their entire journey, and in a few surreal magical moments reveals unexpected abilities, such as speaking clear English and even breaking into song, adding to the forest's dreamlike and unpredictable nature. The Beast, voiced by Samuel Ramey, is the primary antagonist of the series, a primordial entity of the forest, almost always depicted as a towering, shadowy silhouette. He is unnervingly well-spoken and profoundly manipulative, possessing the power to influence and inhabit other creatures. His form is vaguely humanoid but crowned in a formidable pair of antlers, with eyes that glow a faded, ghostly white, though they can shift to reveal sinister red pupils and sclera the color of a sickly pale blue. The Beast's central scheme involves forcing the woodsman to be the perpetual keeper of his dark lantern, which in truth contains the Beast's own soul, under the false pretense that it holds the woodsman's daughter. Throughout the miniseries, he relentlessly stalks Wirt and Greg, using despair and exhaustion to try and turn them into new edelwood trees to fuel his existence. When the lantern's light is finally cast upon him in the climax, his true form is revealed as a horrifying amalgamation of countless grotesque faces, likely the tormented souls of his previous victims. His reign ends when the woodsman, finally seeing the truth, extinguishes the lantern's flame, destroying the Beast utterly. Adelaide of the Pasture, who is voiced by John Cleese, is an ancient and powerful old woman revealed to be the sister of Auntie Whispers. She preys upon the desperate, having promised Beatrice that she would provide magical scissors to undo the bluebird curse on her family in exchange for a child servant. A domineering and cruel figure, she successfully traps Wirt and Greg with the intention of enslaving them for eternity. Her demise is as peculiar as her character. She is not slain by a weapon, but by her own specific weakness. When Beatrice opens a window in her sealed house, the ordinary night air, which is lethally poisonous to Adelaide, flows in and causes her body to rapidly melt away, freeing the brothers from her clutches.
Somewhere lost in the clouded annals of history lies a place that few have seen, a mysterious place called the Unknown, where long-forgotten stories are revealed to those who travel through the wood. On one particularly dark night, beneath an overturned half-moon, two brothers accidentally wandered deep into the fog of this strange world. Their names were Wirt and Gregory. As the boys began to realize just how lost they were, they suddenly heard the sound of a cleaving axe echoing through the otherwise silent forest.
Greg! Greg!
Welcome to the unknown, boys. You're more lost than you realize.
The woodsman, who seemed to know every inch of the forest, pointed the brothers in the right direction. Soon they were back on the path towards home. But the trail seemed to go on and on.
We should have found a town by now. This is the way the woodsman told us to go, right?
Before Greg could answer, they heard a small voice calling to them for help from inside a bush.
Help me! I'm stuck! Help me out of here and I'll owe you a favor.
The voice belonged to a talking bluebird named Beatrice. Though Wirt was hesitant, Gregory thought it was a good idea to let the bird free.
What about the favor?
Upon her release, Beatrice was very grateful and promised to guide the brothers to Adelaide of the Pasture.
She could help you get home.
Beatrice explained. Soon it began to rain, and that night even Beatrice was lost.
Let's go to this creepy tavern and ask for some directions.
I was wondering if you knew the way... her name is Adelaide.
Try as he might, Wirt could not get a word in edgewise. It seemed as if getting directions was quite a hopeless task until, as luck would have it, they met a horse named Fred. Like Beatrice, Fred the horse had been forced to stay outside in the rain.
Nice to horse your acquaintance,
he said, letting them ride on his back. Wirt, Greg, and Beatrice merely climbed aboard the ferry and went on towards Adelaide's cottage. As the sun went down, they reminisced about the fun adventures they had shared. And although they would miss each other very much, They knew that they'd never forget all the wonderful memories. Or would they?
Now let's go through all 10 episodes one by one and discover what's over the garden wall. The old grist mill. Wirt and Greg, accompanied by a frog Greg is constantly attempting to name, find themselves hopelessly lost in a vast autumnal forest. They soon encounter a talking bluebird named Beatrice, and later, a haggard woodsman. The old woodsman gravely informs them they are trapped in a realm called the Unknown, and warns them to beware of a sinister entity known only as the Beast. He offers them shelter in his oil mill, but their refuge is short-lived as a savage, wolf-like creature stalks them. In the ensuing chaos, Greg accidentally knocks the woodsman unconscious. The two brothers must desperately fight off the beast. The conflict resolves bizarrely when the wolf coughs up a turtle it had swallowed and reverts to the form of a harmless domestic dog. Though the mill is destroyed in the process, furious but forgiving, the woodsman chastises Wirt for his lack of responsibility and reiterates his warning about the beast, advising them to seek safety in a nearby town. Hard times at the Tuscan Bee. After Greg frees Beatrice from a thorny bush, he offers the brother a favor in return for their help. The trio arrives in the strange, pastoral town of Pottsfield, whose inhabitants wear hollowed-out pumpkin heads over their skeletal frames. They inadvertently disrupt the town's annual harvest festival, and the benevolent but stern leader, Enoch, a giant talking pumpkin, sentences them to manual labor in the fields. As they dig, Wirt grows terrified, convinced the residents plan to kill and bury them. Instead, friendly skeletons rise from the earth, don pumpkin shells, and are joyously welcomed by the community. As they depart, Enoch cryptically tells Wirt, "You'll join us one day." With few options left, the brothers agree to follow Beatrice to Adelaide of the pasture, a witch she claims can send them home. Schooltown Follies. Wirt and Beatrice stumble upon a one-room schoolhouse populated by animal children, run by a human teacher, Miss Langtree, who mistakes Wirt for a new student. Meanwhile, Greg, playing with new animal friends, is chased by a menacing gorilla, and they all hide in the school. To lift the gloomy mood, Greg secretly adds molasses to the dinner potatoes. The meal is interrupted by the school's founder, Miss Langtree's father, who angrily confiscates the animals' musical instruments to sell them for funds. Overhearing his lament, Greg and Wirt organize an impromptu benefit concert that earns enough money to save the school. In a final twist, Wirt trips and crashes into the gorilla, revealing it to be Miss Langtree's missing fiancé, Jimmy Brown, who had been trapped in a circus costume. Songs of the Dark Lantern. Seeking directions to Adelaide's house, Wirt and Greg visit a rustic tavern where the patrons share terrifying lore about the beast, revealing he turns lost souls into Idlewood trees to fuel his lantern. Wirt mistakenly concludes the woodsman must be the beast. Hearing Beatrice's cries of distress, Wirt impatiently steals a talking horse named Fred and rides to her aid, finding her unconscious near the woodsman. The brothers escape with Beatrice as the real beast emerges from the shadows to manipulate the woodsman, reinforcing the lie that his daughter's soul is trapped in the lantern, and he must continue harvesting Idlewood to keep her alive. Mad Love. In a desperate attempt to pay the ferry toll to Adelaide's house, Wirt and Greg pose as the nephews of the eccentric millionaire Quincy Endicott to steal 2 cents from him. Quincy confesses he has fallen in love with a ghost in his mansion, fearing he is going mad. While Wirt and Beatrice search for pennies, Quincy takes Greg on a ghost hunt. Beatrice reveals her tragic backstory. She was once a human girl, but she and her family were cursed into bluebirds, and only Adelaide can break the spell. Wirt, in turn, confides his crush on a girl named Sarah. The group reunite and discover the ghost is actually Quincy's neighbor and rival, whose mansion connects to his. 2 lonely souls reunite, rewarding Greg with a penny each, which he promptly discards in a fountain. Lullaby in Frogland. The group sneaks aboard a ferry manned by clothed frogs. They disguise themselves as musicians in the ferry's band. When the performance begins, Greg's frog unexpectedly bursts into song. Upon arrival, a guilt-ridden Beatrice, who's been acting strangely, tries to dissuade them from seeing Adelaide. That night, she flies to Adelaide's house, with the brothers secretly in tow. They overhear the terrible truth. Beatrice had planned to trade them to Adelaide as slaves in exchange for magical scissors to break her family's curse. When Adelaide attempts to capture the boys, Beatrice has a change of heart and kills the old witch by exposing her to the lethal night air. Wirt, feeling deeply betrayed despite her redemption, runs away with Greg. The ringing of the bell. The brothers and the frog encounter the woodsman again, who warns that the beast is closing in. They find shelter with a girl named Lorna, who is controlled by her caregiver, Auntie Whispers, Adelaide's sister, using a magic bell. Auntie Whispers warns that visitors will be devoured. By helping Lorna finish her chores, the brothers break the cycle of control, but they accidentally awaken Auntie Whispers. This triggers Lorna's transformation into a demon, which Wirt successfully exorcises by commanding it to leave. Grateful, Lorna chooses to stay and care for Auntie Whispers. As they leave, Wirt falls into despair, a state that pleases the watching beast. Babes in the Wood. Sailing across a misty lake, the brothers hear the beast's haunting song. Greg remains hopeful, but Wirt has nearly given up. That night, Greg dreams of a glorious cloud city where he is hailed as a hero for defeating the destructive north wind. The Queen of the Clouds grants him one wish. He wishes to go home, but is told Wirt has already been claimed by the beast and is turning into an edelwood tree. In an act of ultimate sacrifice and selfless love, Greg wishes to take Wirt's place and leaves with the beast. Wirt awakens and gives chase, but falls through the ice and nearly drowns before being rescued. Into the Unknown. In a flashback to Halloween night, we see Wirt preparing an audio cassette of poetry for his crush, Sarah. Greg gives the tape to Sarah's friends, and Wirt learns a rival, Jason Funderburger, plans to ask her out. Wirt awkwardly follows Sarah to a party and a graveyard gathering, unaware she is happy to see him. When a police officer chases them off, Wirt and Greg scale a wall, and Wirt sees Sarah find his tape. In a panic, they jump from the wall onto the train tracks, and as Greg finds a frog, an oncoming train forces them to leap into a river where they lose consciousness and enter the unknown. Wirt awakens after his ordeal with the beast to find himself with Beatrice's human family, who thank him for her redemption. He immediately ventures into a blizzard to rescue Greg. The Unknown. Beatrice finds Greg performing the beast's meaningless tasks, his willpower fading. She's blown into Wirt, and they find the woodsman witnessing Greg's final transformation into an edelwood tree. The beast attempts to coerce the woodsman into harvesting Greg. Wirt and Beatrice struggle to free him, and in a moment of clarity, Wirt names the frog Jason Funderburger. The beast then offers Wirt a terrible choice: take up the lantern and keep Greg's soul alive within it. Tempted, Wirt finally sees the truth. The lantern holds the beast's own soul. He rejects the offer, frees Greg, and gives Beatrice Adelaide's scissors. As they escape, the woodsman, finally free of the deception, extinguishes the lantern and destroys the beast forever. Wirt awakens in the real world, pulling Greg and the frog from the pond. They are rescued and taken to a hospital. Wirt wakes to find Sarah and his friends by his bedside, and he shyly invites her over. In a final magical hint, the frog's stomach glows, with Lorna's bell still inside. Back in the unknown, the woodsman is joyfully reunited with his living daughter, and Beatrice and her family are restored to their human forms, their curse finally broken. Now let us move on to some trivia about the miniseries Over the Garden Wall and learn some things about the behind the scenes, production, and the actors. In episode 2, chapter 2, Hard Times at the Huskin Bee, Greg, Wirt, and Beatrice pass through Pottsfield, a town full of skeletons. This is a portmanteau of Pottersfield, a term for a graveyard for people who cannot afford to buy a burial plot, which is very, did not know that. I didn't know that Pottersfield, that's what that meant. And it really is very fitting for this because there's all these like people that are just buried here, and then they're digging them up and they're getting ready to celebrate with the rest of the like pumpkin headed people. And I like that too. They kind of hint at like at the beginning, like, hey, you guys aren't supposed to be here, are you? Like you don't look like you're ready to be here. And then when you find out like eventually at the end, that they're just these like dead people with pumpkin on, and then like, what is Enoch if he's like so huge and giant, right? Like what is he? And he tells them, oh, you'll be here one day too. So there were originally supposed to be 18 episodes. One of the episodes that didn't make the final cut was a man who makes dice out of the bones of kids, which I feel like would have been a little dark. And episode 6, chapter 6, Lullaby in Frogland, was originally supposed to be a 2-part episode, which I could kind of see actually in that one because they get on the boat and then nothing really much happens too much. I mean, because they sneak on, quote unquote sneak, and they're like getting chased around a little bit by some people who are like looking for their ticket, but like none of the frogs speak English except for Jason Funderburger, who then starts singing in English. And then when they take off the cloak and he's naked, because all the other frogs are not naked, it's just kind of strange. Originally, the unknown was supposed to be a limbo world, and the beast was supposed to be a guide for Wirt and Greg to bring them back to life. So I think that was going to be part of the like Tome of the Unknown, right? Like I bet when they found the tome or something, that's when like it would take them to the beast, or like maybe the beast would show up along the way and be like, once you get the tome, we can figure out a way to get you back home, back to life, or something. Because I feel like I think he had the idea of them like, oh, okay, obviously something happened, them in this like unknown place, this limbo world, was because they fell into the water or whatever, and now they're trying to get back. And I think he had that part already like in his mind, like something like it, and that like everything else, like because he did have a plan. And then it kind of got shifted around when they were like, okay, it's only going to be a 10-episode miniseries, and he had to condense things down and move things around. So I would just love to know like what originally he had, if this would have been like a let's just say a 1-season 18-episode series. What would it have been? Although Wirt and Greg arrive in the unknown on Halloween and return to the real world only a few seconds later at the end of the miniseries, it was originally planned for the boys to come back on Christmas Day. And see, I think that's also another that, like, part of that, like, this was what was going to happen, that's what was going to happen eventually. If it had been, like, a longer series, right? Maybe they would have got, I don't know where it would have brought them back on Christmas Day, but, like, that, I think, see, like, that makes a little bit more sense to me about where he was going for it and what he wanted to do, and that like he really had to condense everything down, so the end kind of just became more of a like, oh, okay, well, let's kind of wrap this up. So it's just not too long after from when they fell into the water off the track and then taken to the hospital, and then they wake up. So it kind of gives it that kind of like Wizard of Oz kind of feel, where it's like, was it a dream, was it not a dream? Especially because the Jason Funderburg, the frog, not the guy, he has the bell that's still in his stomach. Like Greg rattles it around and it goes off. So I mean, was it real? Was it not? Who knows? Ooh, I like that. I like the kind of left ambiguous. All right, so now we get into my final thoughts on Over the Garden Wall. So I never watched this when it first came out, but I do remember seeing like advertisements for it. 'Cause this is 2014. I'm trying to remember, because I when I saw it, because I remember I had seen it, and my friend had asked me about it, and I was like, yeah, it's really good. I honestly think like your nephews would really like it. So one time he was like house sitting, and he brought his nephews over, and we sat and watched the whole thing, and they loved it. He loved it. It's like perfectly like autumnal. It gets you into that fall season. We call it fall here sometimes. Autumn, fall. It's kind of interchangeable here. And it just has this aesthetic that just is so pleasing. I love it so much. It feels so like classic and timeless. You know what I mean? Like Americana, in that like it feels very like before, like I don't want to say turn of the century, like very like mid 1800s, or like like steamboats and Mark Twain, and like this picturesque version of America in the 1800s. Before minus the slavery, minus all the women can't vote and other minorities aren't allowed. We're not going to talk about all that, but this is Americana. Like it gives you that feel, and you absorb it, and like just every little piece of it, just like there's like darker parts, like with the beast, and there's like funnier things, like with everything with Greg. I love Greg is probably like my favorite character. He's ridiculous. I love rock facts and how he like him with the little animals at the school. It was hilarious, and then he starts singing potatoes and molasses, and then everything with the frog, Jason Funderburger, and then it's also like sad at some points, like when you learn about like the woodsman and Beatrice, and then it's like just like dark in other places, like with Adelaide of the pasture, and then like Auntie Whispers and stuff, and even when you get to like the song, like let's talk about the songs really quick. The songs are amazing. I love that they chose to like make these very memorable, very great. Like it opens with like this song that's very like you could just like picture it being played in like some like bar saloon or something back in like the 1800s, or maybe even I wouldn't say like the early 1900s, but like just way back then, when sitting as there, and like there's boom 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 boom. You know what I mean? Like it's very jazzy too. It's very like it just inspired by like just every bit of it is like, ooh, that feels just like, yeah, like I don't know. I think if you're not from America and you didn't have to learn about like the 1800s and like that time period, and growing up with like the media showing you this, and constantly being told about this kind of myth of Americana, you won't understand. I mean, until you like experience. I think this is a good way to experience it without having to deal with all like the bad stuff, because this is just like oozing with that, like everything from it, just the songs, the atmosphere, the clothes, like what they're wearing, what they're the way that they're like talking, and the way that, because it does too feel like there's certain parts where it feels very like, okay, turn of the century, like to the 1900s too. At certain points, like I would say with like the school the schoolmaster, and she's singing the song, A is for this, A is for, B is for that. So there's things where it's like it just feels very American. Like if it gets you into that. I feel like this is like a perfect after Halloween watch, like to get you into going into like the Thanksgiving season, which is something that we just celebrate here. You start getting you to that, like, oh, the season's changing, and you're starting to see the leaves fall, and autumn's coming, and it's getting darker, and it's getting colder, and like, just feels so good. Elijah Wood does a great job, like, as this character. I mean, he always does a good job. I think Melanie Linsky, I know now a lot of people know of her because she's been in so many things recently, like Yellow Jackets, and she was in in The Last of Us, and she's gotten really popular since then. She was in 2.5 Men, but she's been in so many different things prior to that and since then, and even this. And I've always loved her. She's always been a great actress. I don't know what else Colin Dean's been in or done, but the fact that they got Tim Curry to be in this, they got John Cleese, they got Christopher Lloyd. It's just what? It's so good. They got like the perfect, like, these older actors who are like perfect for these like very particular like sounds and of their voices and roles, and they do so well. They do so good. It's just this is so good. I love Over the Garden Wall, and like I said, it's not really super scary. There are some darker, scary elements as it progresses. And because it was for Cartoon Network, it's not going to be too much for kids. But I think it's a good way to using this, show them this, you see this, oh, it's a little spooky here with like the taverns, a little spooky, they go on the ghost hunt, but that's not like super, I mean, it gets a little dark at some points, but not too much. Even with like the gorilla suits, not too much. Like nothing goes too far until it gets to like the beast. I would say could be a little bit spooky for some kids. But I think this is enough to start leading them into things like Sleepy Hollow, right? Or something about like witches, or things about like of like that nature, right? Like Frankenstein, stuff like that, where it feels more okay, like these 1800s type things, like, especially I think Sleepy Hollow. I feel like that would be the perfect next step from this, would be to like read them or show them like the story of the Headless Horseman. I'm not saying show them Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow yet, though that's a really good one. I think that may be a little too much for some kids. Maybe not enough, or maybe they're tough enough. Maybe you can show them that. I think it's a pretty good one. I like that one. But getting back to Over the Garden Wall, it makes me feel so good. And it does take place on Halloween towards the end. So you still get like that tie to the spooky season that just passed us. And that's what I'm saying is like, it really feels like it's a transitionary type of miniseries that you feel like it's like you're moving from one to another, and that's kind of what the overall series and then like it just pays homage to so many different things here and there. It's just so good. I give it 4 stars. It's great. It's become a modern classic, and I like watching it around this time. Like I said, because it really gets you into that feel of, wow, yeah, the seasons are changing, and we're already at the end of the year. Did you like Over the Garden Wall? Does it get you in that fall season? Got any rock facts? I might have some for you later. We want to thank you all for listening, and if you like what you hear, please subscribe to get every new episode downloaded. If you have any personal or fictional, paranormal, supernatural, or unexplainable stories, we'd love to read them on the podcast. please send your stories, recommendations, or anything else to horrorboxpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to show more support, you can follow our socials on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, or check out our YouTube channel, all at Horrorbox Podcast on all sites. Also, you can buy me a coffee at coffee.com/horrorboxpodcast. It really helps out. Until next time, stay out of the graveyard on Halloween night. This is Dom, signing off from the Horrorbox.
Hey, I know what to do. Here, Miss Langtree, play something like this.
Oh, like this?
Good enough. Oh, potatoes and molasses. If you want some, oh, just ask us. They're warm and soft like puppies in socks, filled with cream and candy rocks. Oh, potatoes and molasses. They're so much sweeter than algebra class. If your stomach is grumbling and your mouth starts mumbling, there's only one thing to keep your brain from crumbling. Oh, potatoes and molasses. If you can't see 'em, put on your glasses. They're shiny and large, like a fisherman's barge. You know you eaten half when you start seeing stars. Oh, potatoes and molasses. It's the only thing left on your tusk. Plus they're short and stout to make everyone shout for potatoes and molasses. For potatoes and...
That's enough!
Father?
Is this what I've been paying for?
Hey, we just wanted to have a little fun.
I didn't invest in this school for fun. I thought we were trying to do important work here, teaching animals to count and spell.